Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our biostimulant seminar this morning. My name is Dr. Logan Skori, and I lead the technical development in Canada for Heckenbickler. Today, we'll have the opportunity and pleasure of listening to Dr. Silvia Fluch, who is the head of R&D for Heckenbickler. She'll be providing more information on biostimulants and their uses, as well digging into the hype surrounding this space. Without further ado, Dr. Silvia.
Thank you, Logan, for the introduction. Yes, indeed, I will try to highlight today a bit on why biostimulants are good for agriculture and what is the current state of knowledge about how they work and what can be reached when you apply biostimulants. So I will start with the presentation. As Logan said, we are an Austrian company, and we have a whole family of biostimulants, and only one of these is available, for example, in Canada or the US. So I will talk about a bit the company Heckenbickler in Austria, just briefly, then a general view on biostimulants, because I think it is very important for everybody who wants to use biostimulants to understand the concept and why they are working and what is the background, what is on the market available, and how to put these into categories. In the next step, then I will elaborate a bit on AMALGEROL Essence, or AMALGEROL Prime as it is called in the US, and then show you some facts from the field from our trials which we were conducting over the past decades, let's say. So the company Heckenbickler is situated in Innsbruck, right in the heart of the Alps. Some of you might know it because it's also a famous skiing area. And the company started in the 1980s with the sales of a biostimulant. This biostimulant has been developed in Switzerland already in 1948. So you can see it's a long history of biostimulants and biostimulant knowledge, which is owned by our company. In the 1990s, we had the first bigger exports in European countries, and since 2020, it is guided by the Huerta family with over 30 countries across Europe and international countries where we are providing our biostimulants. On the map, you can see we are exporting our products from Canada, US, down to Ukraine, so a wide geographical space where we are present. We don't do this on our own because we are like 20 to 30 people only, so we are family-owned business, but we have partners all over Europe and in the US and in Canada who help us with the distribution of our products. We have a vision, and as you see the tree, this big tree in the background, which is having like wide branches, deep roots, and a strong trunk. We want to work with nature, we want to grow with nature, we want to expand, but we also want to deepen our knowledge on why biostimulants are working, and we want to distribute this knowledge so that everybody can understand what is the fuss about biostimulants. So our vision is to be the leading company in the field of biostimulation. And we develop, produce, and distribute high-quality products and promote sustainable agriculture. So when we talk about biostimulants, I think the very first thing to discuss and to understand is the concept of biostimulant. Now, as we are based in Europe, we are quite lucky because in the European legislation, in the fertilizer legislation, there is a single category which is called biostimulants. So biostimulants is not plant protection, and biostimulants is also not plant nutrient. So it's very different from the concept we are in agriculture are used to. We are used to the concept that if we put something on the field, either it's nutrition or it is a trait, more or less, a trait which the plant doesn't have. So we add insecticides, we add herbicides or fungicides because the plant doesn't have enough tools to counteract these threats. So biostimulants is in between. Biostimulants are products of various origins with the aim of improving the natural processes in plants and soil. And this is the important part. Biostimulants can only support what is there in the genetics of the plant, in the biodiversity of the soil microbiome. So the first thing to learn is biostimulants are not a fertilizer, and they function based on the principle from nature. So they support the immune system of the plant more or less, so the plant gets stronger, and because it is stronger, it can produce more fruit as well. The biostimulant history and developments, as I've said, even before 1948, when our first product was generated in 1933, Filatov was having this general concept of a biogenic stimulant in 1993, and then it took until 2019 until the European Union accepted in the regulation of a fertilizer that biostimulants are a category on their own, as they are neither fertilizer nor plant protectant agents. In other countries, like in Canada and the US, this legislation or this acceptance of biostimulants is not yet there in the agricultural field. So when we are importing our product, we have to put it as a fertilizer. Later in my presentation, you will see that nobody would buy a fertilizer with these values, but as it is in biostimulants, it gives added value to the product. In Europe, when we have a certified biostimulant, you can see it by the CE label, which is on a product, then this would say that the efficiency of the product has been tested. And we as a producer, we as a company, we have to prove to a certified body that within 3 years, in certain crops, we could deliver either more yield or better nutrient use efficiency or whatever. So we have different claims for different crops, and we have to bring the proof that biostimulants, that our biostimulant, our product we put on the market, is really working like this, and it brings the results. So also in the US and Canada, if you see this CE label on a product, on a can coming from Europe, you know that this has been certified by an independent authority. Now, what I'm always hearing is, well, there are so many different biostimulants on the market, and farmers are getting lost in these many different things. And of course, everybody comes and says, my biostimulant is the best. So in order to categorize this and to get a more clear picture on biostimulants, here we can see a categorization. So there are inorganic and organic biostimulants on the market. And of course, the biggest proportion is the organic biostimulants. Inorganic, yes, there are some silicon, aluminum, and so on. So micronutrients which also act as biostimulants. But the majority on the market is organic. And again, there are the microbials, so viable microorganisms, and non-microbial biostimulants. The viable ones, the microbials, is bacteria and fungi. There are some examples listed here on the slide for example, mycorrhiza fungi, or in the bacteria sector, plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, which are more and more entering the market. So these are viable, and because these are viable bacteria or fungi, always there is the issue of, can they establish in the soil, can they establish in the environment, can they do what a company promises they will do. In the middle section, there is this non-microbial biostimulants, and our product also belongs to these categories. So non-microbial biostimulants are either algal or botanical extracts, humic substances, protein hydrolysates, or biopolymers. And again, you can see they could come from different sources. If we take, for example, the protein hydrolysates, they could either come from plants or they could come from animal protein, animal byproducts. Biopolymers, the same. For example, the chitosan, this is the shell of shrimp which has been hydrolyzed and then is being traded as a biostimulant. And for all these categories, scientifically speaking, there is a lot of positive publications and science showing that all these things act as biostimulants. Now, if you look how diverse these categories are, one might wonder, how is it possible that the shell of a shrimp is having a similar biostimulant activity like the extract of an algae or like fulvic or humic acids. Of course, they are not the same. They have some subtle differences, but in general, they can all be regarded as biostimulants, and they all have the overall aim to increase yield and to improve the plant immune system, which then, of course, if the plant is more healthy, then you have a higher yield. If we look at the biostimulants market, so this is a slide which we took from the Biostimulants World Congress last year in the US. And I was told the numbers are wrong, meaning that the sales numbers are way higher for biostimulants. In any case, what I want to show, it's not the numbers, but I want to show that over the years, since 2019, there is a strong increase in the biostimulant market, in the sales of biostimulant market, and it's in all categories. It's in microorganisms, it's marine algae extracts, plant extracts, organic substances, amino acids, proteins, and so on. So biostimulants enter the market, they are accepted, but also not in every country well regulated, which might bring some of the problems and some of this, the idea that biostimulants are not reliable. Overall, we have a good situation, the market is growing, and because there will be less and less plant protection agents, also fertilizers should not be used so much anymore, organic farming is coming, and this is why also biostimulants, the market is increasing. Now, if we talk about how biostimulants are working, I think it needs a few words to draw the landscape, the picture on how plants are functioning at all. So, of course, all of you know there is photosynthesis and CO2, which is needed in sunlight in order to generate sugars. So the energy of the sun plus CO2 is generating sugar, and this sugar is like the investment of the currency of a plant. The plant can invest this currency, these building blocks of the plant, either in growth or it has to invest it in defense. Now you can imagine the plant in every minute has to decide what to do. Should it grow further, or is there some threat coming? Is there some environmental threat? Are there some pathogens? Because then it has to take part of this energy and put it to defense reactions. So we have these two situations. The plant always has to decide where to invest, either in the primary growth, cell wall, lipids, and so on, or does it have to deviate some energy for environmental stress reaction, for example, or against the environmental stress? And so you can already see that if you could have a product that would alleviate the stress, then more energy is available for growth. The other thing we have to think, why are plants producing seed? And what is the idea behind? So plants are not producing seed that we have a good harvest. It's just that we are using it in the end. But plants are producing these seeds in order to have a good next generation. And what they want to do, to have as much energy in these seeds to give the next generation a good start. So the plant has to decide, again, how much energy to put in the seed. So if it's feeling well, it has more energy to put in the seed, then our harvest will be better. And this is the concept in which biostimulants are working. As I've said, the plant is always exposed to different threats, and they come in parallel. There could be frost or heat or UV. Then, of course, there could be predators. There could be animals feeding. There is some infections on the leaves or maybe in the roots. So the plant has to have a system, first of all, to sense all of these threats, and secondly, also a communication system. Because if there is a predator or a feeding on one of the leaf, a herbivore, then the whole plant has to know this. It has to know, okay, I need to dedicate some energy to get rid of the herbivore, or at least to close the wounds and so on. So there is a communication system, and this communication system within the plant has been studied. The other thing is also plants can't run away. So if there is a herbivore, they have to do something because they are sessile, so they cannot move. And they have a toolbox. And in this toolbox, they can select what to do. What are they doing if there is a herbivore, if there is an infection? Then they know they have to dedicate a certain proportion of the energy they get from the sunlight and put it to this part of the toolbox. For example, for the growth, of course, they always would have more chlorophyll and more photosynthesis because then there is more sugar. If there is a stress, all of a sudden there are reactive oxygen species, so there is a cell stress, an oxidative stress, so the plant has to cope with this stress. And if you look in this circle, which I depicted here, all of these compartments are needed when a plant is reacting against stress. The stomata have to be closed, for example, in drought stress. Then secondary metabolites should be produced in case there is a herbivore, or osmoprotectants in frost or in heat. The membranes have to be stabilized, always depending on what type of stress and what type of threat is acting against the growth of the plant. The plant has systemic reactions. As I've said, the plant has to communicate within the parts, and this is a systemic reaction. So up until now, 3 major systemic reactions are known in the plant, and they are triggered by different elicitors. There is one overall reaction which is based on the salicylic pathway. So there are these hormonal pathways, and hormone is, for example, one communication tool for the plant. Hormones is one communication tool, nitrite oxide is one communication tool, but also these free radicals, oxygen radicals, are communication tools of the plants. So if we look at the systemic acquired resistance, where the whole plant is getting resistant against a certain pathogen, here, if a pathogen is coming and the plant is sensing the pathogen, there is communication via the salicylic acid pathway throughout the plant until the root tips, so that the plant is prepared to fight against the pathogen. Then the whole plant has a certain resistance state. Another type of resistance is induced in systemic resistance, and here we are coming already closer to biostimulant, the microbial biostimulants. So now it is known that beneficial microorganisms like plant growth promoting rhizobia, they promote this enhanced defensive state in the plant, so the plant have an induced systemic resistance, the whole plant. So even if in the root or on the leaf you have some beneficial microorganisms, the plant is sensing these, and the whole plant is systemically more resistant against attacks. And a similar situation, a third pathway, is the induced systemic tolerance, which is as a reaction against abiotic stress. And this is a more hormonal abscisic acid and nitric oxide pathway. And again, the whole plant down to the root tip is reacting to drought, to heat, to UV, to frost. So how does a plant sense the environment? Like we know we have our nose, we have our fingers, we hear. So how is the plant sensing all of this? Of course, there are light sensors for the photosynthesis, so the plant can put the leaves in a certain angle to get more light or less light. Or there is some way of also moving the leaves to respond to the light. There is temperature detection, which is, for example, important in spring and in autumn. So the plant counts how warm or cold, how many warm or cold days are here, and then it starts to change physiology, for example, in autumn. Then touch sensitivity is also something you might know, because the mimosa, the plant, if you touch it, the leaves are closing, so there are also sensors for touch. But the most important thing for plants to sense the environment is a chemical sense. So on every cell surface, there are small, you can see it here depicted, these small half round shaped things. These are extracellular parts of sensors, and they can recognize certain molecules. These sensors also have a transmembrane part, and inside of the cell, there is also another domain which is then kind of ringing a bell. So whenever the outside small brush, for example, senses or gets in contact with a molecule it can recognize, inside of the cell a bell is starting to ring. You can see it here on the right side. We have different sensors. So on the plants, for now, in literature, about 250 to 500 different of these sensors are being described, and each of these sensors can sense different molecules. They could be from bacteria, they could be from different fungi, they could be beneficial or detrimental. So these sensors tell the plant, okay, there is either an enemy or there is a friend, do something inside, and then the inside of the cell starts to react. Calcium channels are opened or closed, reactive oxygen species are being produced in order to communicate to the next cell, listen, there is something going on, and this, it's called Ross burst. So this reactive oxygen species burst is like a wave throughout the plant, and the systemic response is being generated. Stomatal closure could be one reaction, and also callose deposition in order to close the wound or to reinforce cell walls. Also, transcriptional programming, meaning that switching on and off certain genes could be one of the reactions to this ringing of the bell. Now, what is very interesting for non-microbial biostimulants, there are also sensors for molecules which are being generated if a plant cell is getting damaged. You know, if a herbivore is there or some mites, there are holes in the cell wall, and the degradation molecules can be sensed by the plant cells. So maybe I stick with this for a moment. So they are called DAMs, damage-associated molecular patterns. And these damage-associated molecular patterns report the cell, listen, there is something going on here, you need to defend yourself. Probably there is something working on your leaf surface which is causing lysis of your cells, and this is not good. And a systemic reaction, a systemic tolerance or resistance reaction is being started. If we have a look at what kind of molecules have been described so far, so it's over 50 different molecules which have been described, which are belonging to this category of DAMP, so damage-associated molecular patterns. And it's quite interesting because, for example, DNA, which is on the surface of a cell, because it shouldn't be there, is causing an alert system. Sucrose, glucose or fructose and maltose on the outside is causing an alert state. Glutamate, this is amino acids, free amino acids. Some free amino acids have been reported to promote the alert state. Also methanol and fatty acids. So in any kind of molecule category, there are some of these molecules which can cause this alert system and induce resistance. Now, if we have a look, there is a relatively new publication here in Science. We always thought there is a gene for gene reaction. So there is a pathogen or something which is being detected and you have a reaction. In recent publications, we have seen this is not the case. There is a lot of crosstalk between the recognition of a molecular pattern, then the inside of the cell, the receptor network, how they work, and then in the end, the downstream components, what is happening. So it's not a one-to-one relation, but it might well be that, for example, a DNA, an external DNA is being sensed, and this is then causing stomata to be closed. Just to give you an idea, it's a complex situation we are in. Now, if we have a look at biostimulants, and I already said in the slide before, the non-microbial biostimulants, these are highly degraded plant or animal cells, like these damage-associated molecular patterns. So we can imagine that all of these non-living biostimulants go into the category where damage-associated molecular patterns are switched on and the plant is getting more resistant and the immune system is being strengthened. If we have a look at microbial biostimulants, on the other hand, they produce signaling molecules. They are called microbial associated molecular patterns, and they also can be sensed by the same or similar sensors like the damp. So you see, let's imagine here, this is a damp and this is a MAMP, and still the reaction in the end within the cell could be similar or the same. And this is one of the explanations why biostimulants all bring higher yield, more chlorophyll. So the reaction in the end is the same, but the trigger is different. So this brings us closer to the biostimulant action in detail. If you look at literature, data, but also what we have seen in our many field experiments, there are higher photosynthesis values. There is more chlorophyll in biostimulant-treated plants. Also, the plants are more vital. They have more vigor. The senescence very often is delayed. We have more functional ingredients. Very often, also, there's reports on better nutrient uptake, better microbial diversity in the soil, higher microbial functionality, better root growth, more root exudates, the germination of juvenile development is better, and even the shelf life of the fruit and the harvest is better. So, as I've said, the biostimulants are in these different categories of the non-microbials, and they, as we would interpret it, are all belonging to these damage-associated molecular pattern molecules, because the shells of a shrimp, they are highly hydrolyzed. So this is a liquid. Protein hydrolysate, again, this is a liquid where the building blocks of the proteins are there, very highly degraded. The same is for the algae extract, vegetable extract. Also, humic acids are highly degraded organic matter. The microorganisms on the other side and the living fungi, they would send information molecules to the plant, so the plant would react to these and then, for example, produce more root exudates. It's already known nowadays that the plant and the microorganisms in the root area are tightly connected. They talk with each other, they communicate, and the plant is driving the growth of the microorganisms in the root area. For example, some of the plants dedicate 20% of the energy they get from sunlight to the root and to the root exudates, and they do it because they want to have beneficial microorganisms growing in there. So if we have a look what now really is behind these biostimulants. Biostimulants are working via priming and via induction. Priming is a very special situation which has been already described in the 1980s by Dr. Conrad for the first time. It's a state where a plant that has been in contact with a certain trigger, could be wounding, could be a pathogen, but could be also natural or synthetic substances and solicitors. So they get in contact with these elicitors, and they have a small reaction, but the infection or whatever, the damage is not big, so it kind of recovers. But if this primed plant, so it is improved in their immune state, and if this primed plant, because there was this systemic tolerance reaction happening in between, if this primed plant gets in contact with another pathogen or another stressor, for example, the damage is reduced as compared to a plant which has not been primed and then gets stressed or in contact with a pathogen and feels a severe damage. Now this priming runs in 3 states. So you have the interaction with the priming molecule, or it could be also drought or frost. Then there is a preparation phase where the signaling goes on throughout the plant, the systemic level, and the plant reaches a primed state where, for example, more surface receptors are being produced, the chloroplasts are moving closer to the nucleus, things like this, but not a lot. Just a little bit is happening, the plant to be prepared for an, at that point, not specified type of stress. And after some time, the augmented defense is again going down. And this period is like about 14 days it takes, and then the primed state is gone again. So priming is a very special thing, and it has been proven that many biostimulants can bring the plants to a primed state, meaning the immune response will be faster and the plant is reacting better and is more tolerant to stress, to abiotic stress, or even pathogens. Of course, also induction is happening because there are triggers with biostimulants that are perceived via receptors, and then there are changes also going on. Genes are being switched on the cellular levels. For example, the chloroplast and the nucleus are going closer together. The ROS quenching is being improved. The stomata opening, closing is modulated in a different way. And also in the phenotype, we can see a better shoot and root growth because the plant is preparing for a certain type of stress. Also, what we see, there is always more chlorophyll, and with this chlorophyll, you have more energy. And if you have more energy, the plant can invest in different defense states or in growth, depending on what the environment is asking for. But, and there is a but with this priming, maybe you have heard that sometimes, biostimulants not always give the same result. There is always a positive effect, but not every year repeatedly the same, plus 15, plus 20% in yield. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2. Or maybe it's even 0. So the question is why this is. If we have a look at this priming and fitness relationship, in the graph we see the blue line, the blue dotted line is a plant which is not being primed. The red one is the one which is getting a priming stimulus at a certain time. And there is a cost because it needs to put some energy in the preparation for a stress which might be coming. So if a stress is coming, and the plant in the primed state can react faster because it was already prepared. The blue one, which was not primed at all, has a fitness disadvantage and loses some energy. So in case the primed plant is getting another stress, there is a fitness benefit and it's growing better. In case this plant is not getting a stress at all, which is very rarely the case, then of course this energy for the preparation would have been lost, which could eventually even end up in not increased yield gain. So when working with biostimulants other than, for example, with plant protection agents, we are working with the genome of the plant and of the microorganisms associated to the plant. So you can only boost what is available. If a plant, for example, is already in a very good state and the soil is in a very good state, there is not much we can gain. So very often biostimulants are advised to be put on the field in areas where the soil is not so good, if there is a lot of stress, salt stress whatsoever, limitation in nutrition, there we have the best results. So, and biostimulants work in many different situations: drought, salt stress, mechanical damage or hail, frost, UV or heat, flooding or pathogen attack. They are not herbicide or fungicides or insecticides. They are just strengthening the immune system of a plant. Like with us humans, if we are really healthy, we don't need to take any medication. We don't need to take any vitamins. Everything's fine. In case our immune system is a bit weak, of course, then something like biostimulants, immune boosting liquids are helping us a lot. And it's the same with plants. So now I want to explore a bit some of the traits we can see with biostimulants. And again, we have to come back to the toolbox, because this is what the plant can use in order to defend itself against a certain threat. Problems farmers are facing. I like this slide a lot because it kind of shows why biostimulants are meaningful in agriculture. So this is on the right side, we have a graph showing the overall genetic potential for yield in different crops. So if you take all the three bars or parts of a bar together, this would be 100% the genetic potential of corn, of wheat, of soy, millet, and so on and so on. But globally seen, the green one is the yield we really get. We lose a bit of the potential due to biotic factors, and this biotic factor part is so small because there are a lot of chemicals available which are helping the plant to survive a pathogen attack, for example. The orange one, on the other hand, this big proportion, this is loss caused by abiotic factors. Could be drought, could be stress, could be salinity, could be anything. And there is no single cure and there is no single chemical in order to help farmers to diminish, to have less losses due to abiotic stress. But biostimulants can help in mitigating these losses due to abiotic stress. So here is where biostimulants are available and should be used. And unfortunately, as we know, our nature is getting worse and worse. Climate is getting worse and worse. So biostimulants are getting more and more important. Now, if we come to our product AMALGEROL Essence, which is one of different products we are having in the biostimulants family, AMALGEROL Essence is being imported to the US and Canada as a fertilizer. I was describing in the beginning of the presentation why, because there is no regulation for biostimulants in North America so far. I know that it's worked on, but it will take some more, probably years, until there is something solid available. So we are importing the product as a fertilizer. Now, if you look at the nutrient content, 303 is nothing somebody would really buy as a fertilizer, but there is some nutritional value as well. So yes, this is the regular description of an agricultural product, but this is not telling you at all what kind of actives are inside the product. This is why we have another representation, and here you see 7 tiles which are representing the major functional groups which are being present in our multi-component biostimulant. We have herbal extracts and we have plant signaling peptides. So hydrolysates of plant or animal sources, for example, are there. And it's known that not the free amino acids, also these, but peptides very often have a signaling component. And when we think back in the presentation, the DAMPs, the damage-associated molecular patterns, they are hydrolyzed cell walls, hydrolyzed proteins, and the plant can recognize it. We have bioactive carbohydrates. Again, in the list we have seen carbohydrates can be sensed as an external trigger to increase immune system reactions and tolerance and resistance reactions. Plant signaling molecules, yes. As we have algae extracts in our product, we could have some signaling molecules like auxin, but this is not so important. If you ever smelled our products, they are very strong in the smell. So there are also plant extracts in there which are smelling strong, like it smells. I think it smells nice. And these molecules which smell so strongly, they are volatile organic compounds which are communication molecules for plants. If you go through a pine forest in summer, you know it's smelling very nicely for pines. The point is, this smell, we think it's nice. It's a stress signal for plants. They communicate with each other. We are stressed, there is not enough water, and they produce these volatile organic compounds in order to produce rain. As fun as it may sound, but this is the case. So if you put volatiles in a product, then also this is plant communication. We have humic acid-like substances. If you look at the product, is dark brown. So these are is beginning of humic acid building blocks in soil, and the plant is very perfectly able to sense these, because During evolution, the roots were always soaked in this environment where microorganisms were talking and where humic acid-like substances are being generated or degraded. And we have microbial metabolites and postbiotics, so we have signaling molecules like the MAMPs, so signaling molecules of microorganisms, which they usually use to communicate with each other, but also they use it to communicate with the plant. So you see, this multi-component biostimulant is covering the whole area of plant and microbial communication, and this is why it is working. So, AMALGEROL is working on the plant and on the soil, and it is working via priming and induction. The plant, if we positively influence the plant, it has more chlorophyll, more sugar, it can dedicate more sugar to the soil, so the microbiome in the soil is positively influenced, which then in turn positively influences back the plant. So it's like a yin and yang between the soil, the microbiomes and the plant. If the plant feels good, the soil is getting better. If the plant is feeling bad, it tries to do something on the soil that the soil supports the well-being of the plant. So it's always going back and forth, and by this we can increase the performance and yield, also drought resistance and frost resistance and similar things. So AMALGEROL, it has many different compounds in there. It's not just one, it's not 5, it's many. And you can imagine the reaction of biostimulants and also AMALGEROL like the key and the lock on the surface of a plant cell. Of course, there are 500,000 different key and lock positions on the surface of a plant cell. And now if your bundle of keys is big enough, you can unlock many of these locks on the plant surface, and the reaction within the plant, this ringing of the bell within the plant cell, is getting stronger. And this is why our biostimulant is working so nicely, because we can activate the cell response at many different positions in the plant cells, because we have different trigger molecules in there that would trigger the immune response. So AMALGEROL Essence is a systemic biostimulant, which is having a foliar effect and a soil effect as well. So the foliar effect is priming for stress resistance, induction of plant hormone synthesis, also regeneration after stress and injury, increasing chlorophyll content. I think this is the most important thing, because this is the beginning of everything. And then the soil effect, if you can even put it in post-harvest on the soil, and you would have a better straw decomposition, because it activates soil life and it improves, by this it improves the soil structure. It also promotes root growth, if via even the foliar application promotes root growth. And if you have a wider area in the soil where the roots are growing, the root exudates are improving the soil in the area, because there you have more microorganisms. So we have direct and indirect effects when you put biostimulants, and especially AMALGEROL, on the soil. I will not go in detail on this slide, it's maybe a bit crowded, but you can see there is a permanent crosstalk between the plant and the microorganisms in the rhizosphere. And always you have these 3 different reaction, tolerance and resistance reactions, which systemically help the plant to react to changes in the environment. Could be either in the soil, at the root, could be at the leaves, could be anywhere. And always there is a crosstalk, and always the plant at every moment has to decide where to put the energy and where to invest the sugar. Now AMALGEROL is kind of, we'd say we are talking to the plant, we are speaking the plant's language, the ecosystem language. So we are coming with a certain mixture of information molecules which the plant can sense. And by doing this, the plant kind of translates these sensed molecules into the action it needs to take in a certain situation. Meaning, if there is frost, the plant knows it has to protect itself against frost. It will not protect itself against heat because it's cold. If it's hot, then it will protect itself against UV and heat. So the plant has some intelligence as well, And by triggering this plant response and immune system, the plant is improving its health state. So we can see it as like, if there is a stress, we have a potential loss. And by using AMALGEROL essence, we enhance the vigor in order to get closer to the full potential of the plant and also of the different components of a plant, the components in the toolbox. So if we have a look at what can be achieved with AMALGEROL, always there is this, we have the possibility to improve yield and the growth, but also we have sun protection and protection against heat and UV. There is drought protection, there is alleviation of late frost, for example, is something which is now in Europe always a big problem. We always have late frost, and biostimulants can help to the plant to be more tolerant against low temperatures. Salinity and heavy metal stress, regeneration after mechanical injury. Phytotoxicity is also something, if you spray some chemical, then a few days later, if you use AMALGEROL, the plants would recover way faster, greening way better, and are growing better. Then water and nutrient use efficiency is improved. Plant growth promoting bacteria and rhizobia are growing better in a soil where a plant has been treated with AMALGEROL essence, and we have higher fruit and harvest quality. We also have an impact on the soil, could be more soil organic matter. It's a counteracting compaction and is promoting soil health. And also, as I've said, with straw decomposition, it helps because it increases the activity of the microorganisms in the soil. This might sound, or at least for me, in the beginning it sounded a bit strange, because this is not just what we see in we have over 1,000 trials which have been documented, but also in literature. Whenever people are talking about biostimulants, could be algae extracts, could be humic acids, they always come up with this higher yield, more chlorophyll, and so on and so on. So I will try and pick some of these points and try to explain to you why it is working. For example, if we talk about yield and plant growth, a stress always is targeting via free radicals the chlorophyll system. So first of all, the plant has to protect the chlorophyll system, then it has more energy. With more energy, it can grow better. Of course, with more energy, there are more root exudates. There are more beneficial microorganisms in the root system. The roots grow better. By having a bigger root system, you can access more water. With a bigger root system, also the plant can access a bigger area for nutrients. And with more microorganisms, which are kind of solubilizing the nutrients in the rhizosphere, there are more nutrients available for growth. So you see that the explanation why there is very often an increase of yield is because the plant is simply stronger, it has more energy, it can penetrate a bigger area in the soil, it has more interactions with the beneficial microorganisms in the soil, and this is why then it grows better. And finally, because it has enough energy, it can produce either bigger seeds or more seeds in order to have a better next generation. As I've said before, the plant is doing it for itself. So AMALGEROL supports higher yields with a better quality as well, because the plant then, of course, tries to put as much energy and as much, for example, antioxidants in the seeds as possible. So very often we have more oil, or we have more starch, or we have more protein content in the seeds. If we talk about drought, it's a similar story again, because the reactive oxygen species are attacking the photosystem. So the plant, first of all, has to get rid of these free radicals, has to protect the photosynthesis system and the chlorophyll. And if there is more energy available, they can do osmoprotectants, because they press out the water. The stomatal closure is being modulated in a different way. The root system then, via abscisic acid signaling, favors potassium for a better uptake, so the plant is able to survive better in drought situation. And very, very often we see this in our trials. if there is a stress, the plant is performing way better. Also, for example, it is known that microorganisms are being impacted by drought, and plants can help them to survive. So again, there is this yin-yang between the soil, the microorganisms, and the plants. In frost, I was just looking at the clock. Maybe I should go faster and maybe get over some of the slides. In frost, we have a similar situation. So we have seen that we can increase the frost tolerance by 2 to 3 degrees in plants if we apply AMALGEROL essence 2 to 3 days before the frost event. Also, a seed application, seed dressing is something quite interesting, because if you apply AMALGEROL essence on the seed fairly early, then the plant has the bacteria within the plant are being activated. The plant is getting stronger. There is a kickstart after germination, and as soon as the first leaflets are out, there is more chlorophyll and more energy for the plant to grow. For the soil, as I've said, there is many beneficial effects, and very often we tend to forget how important the soil for a plant is. It's not, of course, we do breeding of a plant and we nourish the plant, but the soil has a major impact on the health of the plant. So it does degradation, nutrient cycling, it provides the water, it is the home of microorganisms which produce plant hormones, and even those microorganisms help in salinity regulation. So we should not overlook the importance of soil. So with AMALGEROL and soil applications, either before planting or post-harvest, we can positively influence the microbial diversity, which in the end then positively influences again the health of the plant. Straw decomposition, as I've said, it helps because the microbial activity is increased, so it helps the degradation of the soil over winter. So I could go in many details, and there is a lot of literature for all of these things going on, but this was just to show you that that AMALGEROL and biostimulants are a meaningful and an interesting tool as an addition to nutrient and to plant protection. So it's nothing which can substitute neither nutrient nor plant protection, but it can help you to decrease the amount of plant protection agents or nutrients you need in order to have a comparable or the same yield. We have, so when to apply is always a question. We have to think a bit bigger, because it's nature and it's biology, and the hormonal regulation of the plant is more or less similar in any type of plant, plus minus. And there are some phases where it's important or it's better to apply biostimulants, like in a germination phase or in the early growth phase, in the seed filling phase, flower bud development could be in spring or in autumn. Let's say if we talk about cherry, then it would be autumn. And then, of course, as a acute treatment in frost, for example, or after hail. And the application frequency, again, it could be once per season, which is not a lot, to every 2 weeks. So for some crops, we have data where it was applied every 2 weeks in apple, for example, or in grape, and we had very nice results with this. So for all different crops, we have flyers. You can ask for these. We will happily share these. And in all these flyers, we have the optimal time points for applications for AMALGEROL essence. Also, we have topic flyers like impact on the soil or enhanced yield security with biostimulants when you have late frost, and some more which I didn't list here. Now, coming to field results, I was just picking some. So we have, as I've said, a wide collection of trials documented over many years. It's even online available. It's on the AMALGEROL website. If you go for trials, then you can register and you can have a look at the trials we were doing. Not all of them are there, but a good selection is there for different crops in different years in different countries. So now if we come to Canada, because the webinar is targeted at the Canadian market. We did some trials in the last years, for example, with Lakeland College in Alberta on oilseed rape, with different amounts of AMALGEROL essence applied. And you see here 1 and 2 liters of one application and 2 applications of 1.2 liters of AMALGEROL per acre, AMALGEROL essence per acre, meaning 3 liters per hectare. And with 2 liters, we have a fairly good result with like a yield increase of 14%. So, because we always ask, can we have one application only? Can we reduce the amount? Yes, you could, but then the effect is not that nice. So it's not clever to save money in that area, because then your effect, your result will not be comparable with the result which would be reached with 3 liters once or twice a year, as we recommend. If we go to wheat, we had a small plot trial last year where we reached 2.5% with Premium Ag in Canada. To compare, in comparison, if we have a large scale, if we look at the large scale trial in Hungary in 2018, we could have an increase by 22% in yield with 4 liters per hectare of AMALGEROL essence. Here you see 2 liters per hectare, one application, plus 5.5, 4 liters, plus 22%. So there is some gradient, and if we apply more, we already know like 6 liters gives you a not so good result anymore. And if we have a look how it comes that the yield was so high, we had more seeds per ear and we had a higher 1,000 grain weight. So yeah, 1,000 corn weight. So you see that the plant, because it has more energy, is healthier, can dedicate more compounds to the seeds, so there are more seeds and they are filled better, with very often also with more protein, so that the next generation of plants would have a better start. Also in the trial we were investigating the root biomass, and we had 17% more root, because of course the plants need to nourish the seeds in order to have this yield. If we look at corn in Canada, 2024, it was a field trial at the farmer site. We have again plus 5% bushels per acre more yield, with an application of 3 liters, one application 3 liters per hectare. In Ukraine, I was selecting from our collection another trial where we had plus 15 to 17% more yield and a higher 1,000 kernel weight with 2.5 liters per hectare single application. So you see, depending on how often you spray, and you should not go below 2 to 3 liters, I would rather say 3 liters, then you very often get a higher yield plus additional higher quality. With wheat we have seen we have higher protein content, and with this higher protein content, of course, you can get more money on the market if you have A quality instead of B quality harvest. If we go for soybean we didn't have any results in Canada as yet, but if we have a look at the trial in 2023 in Hungary, and here you can see we were applying 2, 3, and 6 liters of AMALGEROL once per hectare in this trial, and you can see with the 6 liters once, obviously the plant was overloaded with signaling molecules and was not reacting in a sense that the more you give, the better it is. So that's why we say 3 liters, 1 to 2 applications is very good. If you want to split the 3 liters in the beginning, 1.5 within 14 days, fine as well. So also here we have an increase in yield until a certain point. So you see that with AMALGEROL we get very nice results, not always the same, not a guarantee that it's always very, like the yield is increasing, could be plus 5, could be plus 15, depending on your soil and depending on the nutrition and fertilizing state of the field. So there are many factors which are interfering with the plant growth: timing of application, soil types, presence or absence of microbial partners. So if you have a healthy soil with many beneficial microorganisms, then they would react stronger than a soil where maybe nothing is there. This is also why one would maybe think of applying a microbial biostimulant together with AMALGEROL essence, because we know AMALGEROL essence promotes the establishment of microorganisms in the rhizosphere. And of course, the plant genetic background is also something which is having an impact. So what we have seen over the years is that an improved harvest can be achieved on medium to bad soils, and especially under stress conditions and nutrient limitation. If you are already at the very good nutritional state and close to the maximum of the genetic potential of a plant, then it would not help a lot to give biostimulants, because there is not much you can do to get to 100%. If you are at 20% of yield, then of course there is a big gap which can be filled by using biostimulants and improving the plant health state. There are some other economical considerations. If we go to broadacre crops, which is mainly the case maybe in US and Canada, very often we see a higher oil or protein content. So meaning that if the yield is maybe not increased, but for sure the quality of your crop will be better. We have very often more even or heavier grain, so the 1,000 kernel weight is better. And then also what we see with corn, for example, the stalk is stronger, and the wind cannot damage the stand so much, also with wheat and so on. So you have other benefits than just yield. And so this is important to have a look when you apply biostimulants. What are the general effects, not just look at one trait and that's it. For leafy vegetables, there are different positive effects. In potato, for example, we see more equal size classes, less tuber rot, and even storability is better because the dry matter content of fruit and vegetable is higher. Fruits and berries, we have, for example, much more sugar. So the grapes, we have higher Brix content. And also the yeast available nitrogen in the fruit is better, meaning the fermentation is better. So overall, there are positive and long-term effects on the soil and on the plant and on the soil fertility. And also, if we talk about soil, it helps preventing flooding and soil erosion. So you see the application of biostimulants is not just that your yield is getting more, could be, but for sure the quality is better and you do good to the soil and to the ecosystem, in also stopping the flooding potential and the erosion potential of the soil. So you see we have a manifold possibilities and impacts when using biostimulants and using AMALGEROL, and you can apply it already before seeding as a seed dressing. You can have it as a soil application before seeding or after harvest, a foliar application during growth and flower and fruit development, and for straw decomposition after harvest. And the effects in improved plant growth and productivity of all plant species. So it's not specific just for one, it is working on all plant species which we are using in agricultural system, because it's working on the biological basis on how plants are working, and this type of working and systemic reactions have been developed over time during evolution, and this is why biostimulants in general are working on all plants. And this is more or less what I wanted to tell you. Now I'm a bit over 1 hour, I'm sorry for this. I hope it was interesting for you. In case you have some questions, I'm not sure whether we will open a discussion site now. Otherwise, please write us, please write to Logan or write to me. Contact us and give us some feedback on what you think about biostimulants. I'm sure we will continue this series. I'm sure we will maybe put the spotlight on other aspects of biostimulants and AMALGEROL, and so stay tuned, and I hope it was helping you a bit, the presentation I gave today. So now I need to stop. Okay, so here we are again, Logan.
Yeah, thank you, Silvia. It was really great to hear your insight on biostimulants and to also share a bit about AMALGEROL essence, which we've been using in Canada, we've been using it on our farm for a few years now, and really starting to see a difference in our year-to-year crop, and especially the last couple of years mitigating stress, especially canola and the heat that we've been experiencing during flowering. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type in the chat. If not, thank you for attending today, and happy to answer any questions offline.
Thank you, Logan. I see there is no questions so far, so we will close the session and wishing everybody a good planting season, right? Goodbye.